The Boardsphere Technologies executive boardroom fell silent as Jack Deckard pushed open the double doors. His Italian leather shoes clicked against marble flooring that had once felt forbidden to a mid-level programmer like him. Now he owned it literally. "Gentlemen, ladies," his voice cut through the air-conditioned silence. "Please don't stand on my account." His smile didn't reach his eyes. "Oh wait, company policy states you must stand when the majority shareholder enters. Isn't that right, Charles?" Charles Windsor's face had turned the color of spoiled milk. 15 months ago, this same man had called security to escort Jack from the building, his belongings in a cardboard box, his reputation in tatters. "This meeting is called to order," Jack continued, sliding a leather portfolio onto the polished mahogany table. The whispers died instantly. Effective immediately, Boardsphere Technologies is under new management. He unbuttoned his jacket, a bespoke Tom Ford that cost more than his old monthly salary, and surveyed the faces around him. Shock, confusion, and from a few unmistakable fear. "For those who haven't connected the dots yet, my holding company now controls 51% of Boardsphere's shares." Jack's gaze locked with Victoria Hayes, the company's razor-sharp legal counsel. "And yes, Ms. Hayes, the paperwork is immaculate. I learned that lesson the hard way." The projector flickered to life behind him, displaying a corporate structure diagram with his name at the top. Someone gasped. "Impossible," muttered Philip Stone, head of operations and the man who'd orchestrated Jack's public humiliation. "We would have known. Like you knew about Project Lazarus?" Jack interrupted, enjoying the way Philip's face drained of color. "The stolen technology that built this company's fortune? The patents that mysteriously disappeared after my father's death." The temperature in the room seemed to drop 10 degrees. "You all thought I was finished. The scapegoat. The nobody programmer who dared suggest that Boardsphere's flagship product was built on stolen technology." Jack's fingers traced the edge of a sealed envelope on the table. 15 years of loyalty repaid with a security escort and industry blacklisting. His phone vibrated in his pocket. A message from his mysterious partner. She was watching, waiting. The next move would change everything. "There will be changes," Jack continued, "starting with the board composition." He slid a document forward. "You'll find your resignation letters prepared. You need only sign." A trickle of sweat ran down Charles Windsor's temple. "You can't do this. The shareholders." "I am the shareholder, Charles." Jack's smile tightened. "The question isn't whether I can do this. The question is what else I might do." The weight of 15 months of planning, of secret meetings and sleepless nights, pressed on Jack's shoulders. But he'd come too far to show weakness now. Alicia Bennett, head of marketing and once Jack's closest ally in the company, stared at him with a mixture of awe and horror. "Jack, what happened to you?" she whispered. The question hit harder than he expected. What had happened to the man who'd believed in the system, who'd trusted his colleagues, who'd poured his heart and soul into a company that discarded him without a second thought? "Life happened, Alicia." He opened his portfolio. "Now, shall we begin the real meeting? The one where I explain exactly what I found in my father's old workshop? The technology that looks remarkably similar to what made Boardsphere billions." A soft knock at the door interrupted them. His assistant entered, handing Jack a sealed USB drive. "Perfect timing," Jack said. "This contains the original patents, dated 15 years before Boardsphere was even founded. My father's life's work." He placed it carefully on the table. The work someone in this room made sure he never got credit for. The executives exchanged nervous glances. Someone knew more than they were letting on. "You think you know the whole story," Charles said, his voice steadier now. "You don't." Jack felt a chill. Was there more to this betrayal than he realized? "Maybe not yet," Jack admitted. "But I will. And so will everyone watching this company's downfall." He straightened his tie, a small gesture of control when he felt his resolve wavering. "You have 24 hours to sign those papers. After that, I stop being generous." Jack moved toward the door, then paused. "Oh, and for those wondering how I'm here, never underestimate someone with nothing left to lose." As he closed the boardroom door behind him, Jack's composed facade cracked slightly. His hand trembled as he checked his phone. Another message from his mysterious investor. The woman who'd made this all possible. The woman with her own agenda. Asterisk, phase 1 complete. But remember our deal, Jack. This isn't just about your revenge. Asterisk. He stared at the message, wondering if he'd made a deal with the devil. But it was too late to turn back now. The board was cornered, but the real game was just beginning. What no one in that room knew, what Jack himself was only beginning to suspect, was that the true villain behind his downfall was closer than anyone realized. And the price of discovery might cost him everything he had left. Hey there, beautiful humans. I hope you're enjoying this tale of corporate revenge so far. Where are you watching from today? I'd love to know if you've ever experienced workplace betrayal. Drop a comment below, and let's chat about it. If you're new here and love stories with twists that keep you guessing, hit that subscribe button. Trust me, you don't want to miss what happens next in Jack's dangerous game of revenge. The real question is, when you've been betrayed by everyone you trusted, how far would you go to set things right? Jack Deckard's apartment was nothing like his new public persona suggested. No penthouse. No luxury furnishings. Just a modest one-bedroom in the unfashionable part of town with walls covered in documents, photos, and red string connections that would make a conspiracy theorist proud. He loosened his tie and collapsed onto his worn sofa, the adrenaline of the boardroom confrontation finally ebbing. The Tom Ford suit, his armor, hung carefully in the closet. It was the only expensive thing he owned, purchased specifically for today. They bought it, he muttered to the empty room, reaching for the only photograph not connected to his investigation. His father smiling in front of the small garage workshop where he'd spent endless hours inventing. Jack traced the outline of his father's face. I wish you could have seen their faces, Dad. Thomas Deckard had died believing his life's work was worthless. A brilliant inventor who never got his due, who spent his final years working as a janitor at the very company that would later build an empire on his stolen ideas. Jack's phone rang, a burner, not his regular cell. Ripley Sullivan, the mysterious investor who'd appeared in his life 6 months ago with an offer too perfect to be coincidence. Phase 1 complete, he answered without preamble. I saw. Her voice was cool, collected. Charles Windsor looked like he might have a coronary. How did you? I have eyes everywhere, Jack. We discussed this. He glanced at his wall of evidence. We need to move fast. They'll try to destroy evidence now. Already handled. My team secured the servers during your little board performance. A pause. You did well today. The praise shouldn't have mattered, but it did. After 15 months of being industry poison, of former colleagues crossing the street to avoid him, of potential employers hanging up at the mention of his name, validation felt like water in a desert. The board will fight back, he said. Let them. Confidence radiated through her voice. That's part of the plan. Jack hesitated. Why are you really helping me, Ripley? All this capital, the legal resources. What's your stake in BoardSphere's downfall? We all have our ghosts, Jack. The line went silent for several seconds. Get some rest. Tomorrow we start dismantling what Charles built. Piece by piece. After she hung up, Jack stared at the phone. Ripley Sullivan had appeared when he was at his lowest point, offering everything he needed for revenge. She was brilliant, driven, beautiful, and absolutely hiding something. His doorbell rang, startling him. Through the peephole, he saw Alicia Bennett shifting nervously in the hallway. I know you're in there, Jack, she called. Please. 5 minutes. He opened the door but blocked the entrance. Following me home? That's a risk to your career, considering who I am now. Alicia's eyes were red-rimmed. What happened to you? The Jack I knew wouldn't march into BoardSphere like some corporate raider. The Jack you knew was destroyed. By your colleagues. By you. She flinched. I tried to warn you. After they'd already decided to fire me. After they'd already planted evidence, making me look responsible for the security breach. His voice hardened. After you sat silently while they dismantled my reputation. They threatened my family, Jack. My sister's medical care. Save it. He moved to close the door. Her hand shot out, stopping him. Your father's technology. How did you find it? Jack froze. What do you know about my father? Nothing, she said too quickly. Just what you mentioned in the meeting. 15 years, Alicia. We worked together for 15 years. I thought you were my friend. I was. I am. Her voice dropped. You're not the only one who's been keeping secrets. There are things about BoardSphere you don't know, dangerous things. Like what? She glanced down the hallway nervously. Not here. Meet me tomorrow. The old place, noon. She pressed a folded paper into his hand. Don't trust Sullivan Capital. Ripley isn't who you think she is. Before he could respond, she was hurrying down the hallway. Inside the apartment, Jack unfolded the paper. It contained a single line. Project Lazarus wasn't your father's only stolen work. Prometheus is still active. He'd never heard of Project Prometheus. His regular phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. She's lying. Don't meet her. Jack's stomach twisted. How had Ripley known about Alicia's visit? About the meeting? He returned to his evidence wall, staring at the corporate hierarchy he'd mapped out. Charles Windsor at the top. Philip Stone, his ruthless enforcer. Victoria Hayes, the legal shark. But something was missing, someone pulling strings from the shadows. His gaze drifted to the last communication he'd received from his father, 3 days before his heart attack. A cryptic email that had made no sense until now. The truth is in the numbers. 37-16-42. Not a heart attack after all. And perhaps not just about stolen technology. Jack picked up an old photograph. The BoardSphere founding team, his father barely visible in the background as maintenance staff. He studied the younger Charles Windsor, arm around a woman whose face had been scratched out of the photo. Who were you? He whispered, tracing the defaced image. And what did you know about my father? The answer, he suspected, would change everything. The coffee shop where Jack and Alicia had spent countless lunch breaks felt foreign now. He arrived early, securing a corner table with sightlines to both exits, baseball cap pulled low. Old habits from 15 months of paranoia died hard. Alicia was 20 minutes late. When she finally slid into the seat across from him, her designer outfit was replaced by jeans and an oversized sweater, her normally perfect hair hidden under a scarf. Were you followed? She asked immediately. I should be asking you that. You're the one still working for them. She pulled out her phone, typing rapidly before showing him the screen. Asterisk not safe to talk. They have audio surveillance everywhere. Asterisk. Jack frowned but nodded. She passed him a tablet instead. I brought the quarterly reports you asked for, she said loudly while typing. Asterisk BoardSphere has a shadow division. Not on any official documents. Asterisk. Thanks, Jack replied, taking the tablet. What can you tell me about our mutual friend Charles? He typed back, Project Prometheus? Their verbal conversation continued innocuously while their fingers carried the real dialogue. Asterisk biotech research. Military applications. Your father discovered something, a material that could revolutionize neural interfaces. They took it. When he threatened to go public, he had his heart attack. Asterisk. Jack's blood ran cold. You knew this when they fired me? Asterisk I suspected. I found financial irregularities. Massive funding disappearing into unmarked projects. Then I found this. Asterisk. She pulled a small flash drive from her pocket, sliding it across the table alongside a sugar packet. Try the new hazelnut blend, she said aloud. It's to die for. The weight of her words hung between them. Asterisk this proves everything. Board meeting minutes from 25 years ago. Your father's name is all over the original patents. But Jack, your mother's name is there too. Asterisk. Jack nearly dropped the tablet. Asterisk impossible. My mother was a teacher. Asterisk. Asterisk before that, she was a research assistant at Microtech. Charles Windsor's first company. Asterisk. Before Jack could process this, the coffee shop door chimed. Victoria Hayes strode in, scanning the room with predatory precision. Her gaze landed on their table, a cold smile forming. Well, isn't this cozy? She said, approaching them. Corporate espionage looks good on you, Alicia. Jack stood, positioning himself between the women. This is a friendly coffee, Victoria. Nothing more. Victoria's smile didn't waver. Charles wanted me to deliver a message. She placed an envelope on the table. Your father's original employment contract. Section 12.4 specifically assigns all intellectual property created during his employment to the company. She tapped a manicured nail against the paper. Even posthumously discovered works. Jack opened the envelope. The contract looked legitimate, his father's signature at the bottom. You're too late, Victoria continued. While you were playing boardroom conqueror, we filed emergency injunctions. Your holding company's shares are frozen pending litigation. Alicia looked stricken. Oh, and Alicia? Your resignation has been accepted, effective immediately. Security is currently cleaning out your office. Victoria's gaze hardened. Whatever you think you know, whatever you think you found, ask yourself why Jack's mysterious benefactor chose him. It wasn't charity. She turned to leave, then paused. One last thing, Jack. Your mother called. She said it's urgent you speak with her. Something about setting the record straight. The coffee shop door closed behind her with terrible finality. She's bluffing about the shares, Jack said, but uncertainty crept into his voice. Jack, Alicia whispered urgently. Your mother. When was the last time you spoke to her? 5 years ago. After my father's funeral. The estrangement had been his mother's choice, not his. Alicia grabbed his wrist. You need to talk to her. Now. But be careful. Jack's phone rang. Ripley. Don't answer, Alicia pleaded. But he did. I'm a bit busy, Ripley. Get out of there now. Ripley's voice was tight with urgency. Hayes wasn't alone. There's a team. The line went dead as the coffee shop's front window shattered. 3 men in tactical gear burst through, weapons drawn. Down on the ground, one shouted. Federal agents. Chaos erupted. Customers screamed. A barista dropped to the floor. Jack grabbed Alicia's arm, pulling her toward the back exit. Jack Deckard, stop. You're under arrest for corporate espionage and theft of classified technology. They burst into the alley behind the shop. A black SUV screeched to a halt beside them, passenger door flying open. Ripley Sullivan sat behind the wheel. Get in. Now. Jack hesitated, Alicia's warning echoing in his mind. Jack, please, Ripley urged. They're not real federal agents. The sound of pursuit grew louder. We can't trust her, Alicia insisted. Ripley's eyes met his. I'm Claire Windsor, she said. Charles's daughter. And I'm the only one who can prove your father was murdered. Time seemed to freeze. Claire Windsor, the name Jack had found in his research, the estranged daughter who'd vanished from Boardsphere's history. The back door to the coffee shop burst open. Jack made his decision. He pushed Alicia into the vehicle, jumping in after her as bullets pinged against the SUV's frame. Hold on, Ripley, no, Claire, warned, slamming the accelerator. As they sped away, Jack caught a glimpse of Victoria Hayes watching from the sidewalk, phone to her ear, a satisfied smile on her face. The game had changed, and Jack suddenly realized he might be just a pawn in someone else's revenge. You lied to me, Jack said flatly. Claire Windsor, not Ripley Sullivan, kept her eyes on the road as she navigated through back streets with practiced precision. The SUV's bulletproof windows had saved their lives, but Jack's trust was in tatters. I omitted certain details, she replied. If you'd known who I really was from the beginning, would you have taken my offer? In the back seat, Alicia was frantically typing on her phone. These weren't corporate security. The tactics, the gear, they're military contractors. Titan Security Group, Claire confirmed. Boardsphere's private army, officially contracted for executive protection. Jack stared at her profile. The resemblance to Charles was there if you knew to look for it. The same determined jaw, the same calculating eyes. Why the elaborate charade? Why pretend to be Ripley Sullivan, mysterious investor? Because Claire Windsor is legally dead. She took a sharp turn into an underground parking garage. My father made sure of that after I threatened to expose what Boardsphere was really doing with my mother's research. Your mother's? Jack asked. Dr. Elizabeth Windsor. Neuroscientist. Pioneer in brain-computer interfaces. Claire's knuckles whitened on the steering wheel. She developed the core technology that eventually became Project Lazarus. When she realized what my father planned to do with it, she tried to destroy her research. Claire's voice faltered. There was an accident. At least, that's what the official report said. The SUV came to a stop deep within the garage. Claire turned to face them fully. Your father worked with my mother, Jack. They were trying to protect the technology from being weaponized. When she died, he continued their work in secret. That's why my father had him killed. Alicia shook her head. If any of this is true, why help Jack take over the company? Why not just expose Boardsphere? Because exposure isn't enough, Claire replied. These people don't fear scandal. They buy their way out of consequences. The only thing they understand is power. She met Jack's gaze. I needed someone on the inside, someone with legitimate claim to the intellectual property. You. Jack felt sick. You used me. I gave you the means for justice, she corrected. Our goals aligned. And what exactly is your goal? He demanded. To destroy my father and everything he's built. Her voice was ice. To finish what my mother started. The elevator doors opened on a penthouse apartment that made Jack's modest home look like a closet. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked the city, while the interior walls were covered with technology that would make any intelligence agency envious. Welcome to my base of operations, Claire said, moving to a complex computer setup. And before you ask, yes, this is where I've been monitoring Boardsphere, including their surveillance on you. Alicia circled the room cautiously. You've been watching Jack? For how long? Since the day they fired him. Claire pulled up multiple screens of data. I needed to be certain he wasn't part of my father's inner circle. Jack struggled to process everything. The injunction Victoria mentioned, is it real? Very. Claire displayed court documents. Filed 3 hours ago. They're claiming your takeover was based on fraudulent documentation. But we have the original patents, Jack protested, which they'll claim were fabricated. Claire's tone was matter of fact. Charles has judges in his pocket. This was always going to be part of their counter-strategy. Jack sank into a chair, head in his hands. So it was all for nothing. Not nothing, Claire corrected. We've forced them to accelerate their timeline. Project Prometheus is moving to final stage. Alicia looked up sharply. What final stage? Claire hesitated, then typed a command. A video appeared, a laboratory where scientists worked on what appeared to be neural implants. Neural enhancement technology, Claire explained. Designed to interface directly with the human brain. My mother created it to help people with neurological disorders. My father saw its military potential. Mind control? Jack asked incredulously. More subtle. Influencing decision-making. Enhancing specific emotional responses. Claire's expression darkened. Imagine soldiers who don't feel fear or empathy. Politicians who can be subtly guided toward specific policies. That's impossible, Alicia whispered. It wasn't 15 years ago. Claire pulled up more documents. But they've made advancements. Using your father's materials science breakthroughs, Jack. Jack stood, pacing. If this is true, we need to go public. Media, authorities. That's what your father tried, Claire cut in. The night before his heart attack, he contacted a journalist. By morning, both were dead. An alert flashed on one of Claire's screens. She frowned, typing rapidly. What is it? Jack asked. Someone's accessed your mother's restricted file at BoardSphere. Claire looked up at him. From inside Charles's personal office. Jack felt a chill. Victoria said my mother called. Your mother hasn't made a phone call in 3 years, Claire said quietly. She's been in a private care facility. Early onset dementia. The room seemed to tilt beneath Jack's feet. No. She lives in Arizona. She sends birthday cards. Claire's expression softened marginally. I'm sorry, Jack. They've been lying to you. Your mother worked for BoardSphere until 5 years ago, when she began showing symptoms. Charles has kept her condition quiet, and her location secure. Why would they hide her? Alicia asked. Because she knows something, Claire suggested. Something they can't risk her revealing, even accidentally. Jack's phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. Son, we need to talk. I'm at home. Come alone. Mom. He showed it to Claire. It's a trap, she said immediately. Obviously, he agreed. But why now? What changed? Alicia studied the message. They're desperate. Whatever Project Prometheus is building toward, your takeover attempt threatened it. Claire suddenly straightened. The board meeting. Of course. She brought up BoardSphere's calendar. There's an emergency session scheduled for tomorrow night with military officials. The final demonstration of Prometheus technology. They're selling it, Alicia realized. Once it's in military hands. Game over, Claire finished. No corporate takeover or patent dispute will matter. Jack looked between the women, his mind racing. The technology is based partly on my father's work. If I could prove ownership, we'd need access to the original research, Claire said. The complete documentation, which is likely stored at BoardSphere's secure facility, Alicia added. Jack's phone buzzed again. Time is running out. You know where to find me. Mom. He stared at the message. His mother, or whoever was impersonating her, was right. Time was running out. But the invitation was obviously bait for a trap. Unless, what if we spring the trap? Jack suggested slowly. Give them what they want, me, while you two get into the secure facility? Claire shook her head. Too dangerous. They tried to kill you an hour ago. They want me alive, Jack countered. Otherwise, those contractors would have used lethal force immediately. They need something from me. The numbers, Alicia said suddenly. Your father's last message. 37-16-42. What if it's not just coordinates or a patent number? A safe combination, Claire suggested. Or a security code. Jack felt a surge of hope. Something they need to complete Prometheus. Something only my father knew. For the first time, a genuine smile crossed Claire's face. Now you're thinking like someone with nothing to lose. The plan took shape quickly. Jack would meet the trap head-on, buying time while Claire and Alicia infiltrated BoardSphere's research facility using credentials Claire had been gathering for months. As they prepared, Jack found himself working alongside Claire at her computer station, their shoulders occasionally brushing. Despite everything, he found himself drawn to her intensity, her brilliance. "Why did you really choose me?" he asked quietly. "There must have been other ways to attack your father." Claire's fingers paused over the keyboard. "Your father died trying to finish my mother's work, to protect people from what Charles wanted to create." She met his eyes. "And when they destroyed your reputation, you didn't break. You got stronger, smarter." A ghost of admiration crossed her face. "I recognized something in you. The same thing that kept me going all these years." "Revenge," he suggested. "Justice," she corrected. "There's a difference." The moment lingered between them, charged with something neither was ready to name. Alicia cleared her throat. "If you two are finished with your moment, we have a problem." Victoria Hayes just called an all-staff meeting at BoardSphere. Something about a leadership transition. Claire's expression hardened. "They're consolidating power, preparing for tomorrow's demonstration." "Then we move tonight," Jack decided. No more waiting. As they finalized preparations, Jack felt the weight of his father's legacy, the mystery of his mother's involvement, and the unexpected complication of Claire Windsor, the woman who'd manipulated him into this dangerous game, yet who now seemed his only true ally. What began as simple revenge had evolved into something far more complex, and far more dangerous. Tonight would change everything, if they survived it. Dusk fell over the city as 3 separate plans were set in motion. In Claire's sleek penthouse, they made final preparations: burner phones, encrypted communications, access codes. "If anything goes wrong," Claire said, handing Jack a small tracking device, "activate this. It'll broadcast your location for 12 hours. Their fingers brushed, lingering longer than necessary. "Be careful with Victoria," Alicia warned, checking her disguise, a BoardSphere security uniform Claire had somehow acquired. "She's more dangerous than Charles. He's the face, but she's the knife." Jack nodded, checking his father's old watch. "I'll keep them distracted for 40 minutes. That's your window to access the secured lab levels. And if your mother, or whoever's pretending to be her, isn't at your old house?" Claire asked. "Then I improvise," Jack replied grimly. "It's what I've been doing since they destroyed my life." The 3 split up, each taking separate routes. Jack drove to his childhood home, a modest suburban house he hadn't visited in years. The lights were on, casting warm rectangles onto the front lawn. It looked exactly as he remembered, down to the slightly crooked mailbox his father had never gotten around to fixing. Too perfect. Too staged. He circled the block twice before approaching, noting the unmarked van parked 3 houses down. The black sedan across the street with tinted windows. Amateur surveillance work. They wanted him to spot them. Jack activated his earpiece. "I count at least 2 observation points. They're not trying to hide." "Because they want you inside," Claire's voice replied. "We're approaching BoardSphere's east entrance now." Jack took a deep breath and walked to the front door of his childhood home. Before he could knock, it swung open. "Jack!" The woman who had his mother's face smiled warmly. "I've been waiting." She looked perfect, the right clothes, the right perfume, even the slight asymmetry in her smile. But the woman who raised him would have pulled him into a crushing hug immediately, not stood there with practiced poise. "Mom," he managed, stepping inside. The house's interior was a meticulous recreation. Family photos on the wall, his father's old recliner, even the smell of the cinnamon candles his mother favored. But subtle details were wrong. Books on shelves his mother would never have read. A painting she would have hated. "We have so much to talk about," the woman said, leading him to the kitchen. "Tea. Who are you really?" Jack asked quietly. She paused, then smiled, the warmth draining from her expression. "Clever boy. Always were." Her voice shifted, accent changing subtly. "Your mother was unavailable, so I'm filling in. Dr. Elise Myers. I specialize in deep character immersion." Jack remained standing. "Where is my real mother?" "Safe." Dr. Myers gestured to a chair. "Please sit. We have limited time, and Charles is eager to resolve this situation without further unpleasantness." Jack reluctantly sat. "What does Charles want?" "The sequence." Dr. Myers poured tea with practiced grace. 37-16-42. "We know your father told you what it means. It was in an email. Nothing more." "Jack," she sighed with artificial disappointment. "Lies don't become you. Thomas left you something. The key to his most important discovery." Her eyes hardened. "We need it to complete Project Prometheus." Through his earpiece, Jack heard Claire's whispered update. We're past the first security checkpoint. Accessing the elevator now. Why should I help complete a project that got my father killed? Jack asked, stalling. Dr. Myers smiled. Because your real mother's continued comfort depends on it. Jack's blood ran cold. You're threatening a woman with dementia? Her condition has been exaggerated. Dr. Myers slid a tablet across the table. This was recorded yesterday. The video showed his mother, undeniably her, in what appeared to be a comfortable apartment. She was reading, occasionally making notes. No signs of cognitive impairment. She's been under our care for 5 years, Dr. Myers explained. A comfortable arrangement, contingent on her cooperation. And now yours. Jack struggled to process this revelation. My mother's not sick? She's a prisoner. A protected asset, Dr. Myers corrected. Your father's work was built on her research. They were partners long before they were husband and wife. Did you never wonder why a brilliant materials scientist married a schoolteacher? She laughed softly. Your mother wasn't just a teacher, Jack. She was one of the leading neurochemists in the country before she disappeared into domestic obscurity. Through his earpiece, Claire whispered, We've reached the secure level. Alicia's bypassing the biometrics. Jack needed more time. If what you're saying is true, why keep this from me? Why the elaborate lie about her condition? Because knowledge is power, a new voice answered. Jack turned to see Charles Windsor himself entering the kitchen, Victoria Hayes at his side. Hello, Jack, Charles said pleasantly. I believe you have something that belongs to me. I have nothing of yours, Jack replied coldly. On the contrary, Charles took a seat, his movements deliberately casual. You have the final component of your father's research, the activation sequence for the neural interface. Without it, Project Prometheus remains incomplete. Victoria placed a file on the table. Your parents weren't just brilliant scientists, Jack. They were visionaries who understood that human evolution needed guidance. You mean control, Jack countered. Charles smiled thinly. Humanity is facing extinction through its own poor decisions. Climate collapse, nuclear proliferation, resource depletion. Project Prometheus offers a solution, a way to subtly influence collective decision-making toward survival. By turning people into puppets, Jack said. By removing emotional barriers to rational thought, Charles corrected. Imagine a world without fear-based decisions, without tribalism, without hatred. A world you control, Jack said. A world we save, Charles insisted. Your parents understood this. They helped create the foundation of this technology. In his ear, Jack heard Claire's sharp intake of breath. He's lying, she whispered. My mother would never. Her voice cut off abruptly. Claire, Jack whispered, forgetting himself. Charles's eyebrows rose. Claire? My daughter Claire? His expression darkened. So the rumors were true. My daughter has been helping you. Victoria touched her earpiece. Security to research level 5. Intruder alert. Jack's heart raced. Claire and Alicia were compromised. Whatever you think you know, Charles continued, is only part of the truth. Your parents and my wife weren't just colleagues. They were believers in the same vision. A world where humanity's worst impulses could be controlled. Until my mother changed her mind. Claire's voice suddenly returned to Jack's ear, breathless. Until she saw what you really planned. Your mother was weak, Charles said, somehow responding to Claire's statement despite not hearing it. She lacked the courage to see our work completed. He studied Jack's face. But you hear her now, don't you? Claire has found a way to communicate with you. Jack kept his expression neutral, but Charles merely smiled. Of course she has. My daughter always was brilliant. He leaned forward. What she doesn't know, what I've protected her from, is the truth about her mother's death. About your father's complicity. Don't listen, Claire urged in Jack's ear. He's manipulating you. Charles produced an old flash drive. This contains the original security footage from the night Elizabeth died. The night your father helped her destroy their research. His eyes locked with Jack's. The night your mother provided the formula that made their sabotage possible. Jack felt the ground shifting beneath him. My mother helped destroy the research? Catherine Deckard was the moral compass of the team, Charles said. When she realized the military applications we were pursuing, she convinced Thomas and Elizabeth to destroy years of work. Elizabeth died in the resulting lab fire. Your father survived, haunted by guilt. Charles's expression hardened. Your mother fled with you, leaving Thomas to face the consequences alone. Through his earpiece, Jack heard chaos, alarms, shouting. Jack, Claire's voice was urgent. we found something. The original Prometheus files. Your mother's name is everywhere, as the ethical oversight officer who shut down the military applications. The pieces suddenly aligned in Jack's mind. The numbers, 37-16-42, weren't a code or combination. They were a publishing reference. Ethics in Neurotechnology, Volume 37, Issue 16, page 42, Jack murmured. Charles's eyes widened. What did you say? My father's last message, Jack continued. It wasn't a code. It was a citation. To my mother's paper opposing neural interface weaponization. He stood slowly. You never needed me to access anything. You needed me as leverage against my mother, the real architect of the ethical constraints built into the technology. Victoria stepped forward menacingly. Sit down, Jack. You're still lying, Jack said to Charles. You killed my father because he continued my mother's work, building in safeguards you couldn't override without the original ethical framework. Charles's mask of civility slipped. Your parents were naive idealists who couldn't see the necessity of what we're building. Humanity is destroying itself through emotional decision-making. Project Prometheus is the only way to ensure our survival. Through his earpiece, Jack heard Claire's voice again. We've found your mother's files. The override codes, they're keyed to her genetic signature. They need her to physically authorize any military application. Suddenly, the house's lights flickered. Charles and Victoria exchanged alarmed glances. Security breach in the main facility, Victoria reported, checking her phone. The power grid is fluctuating. Charles stood. We're done playing games, Jack. Take us to your mother's research now, or... The front door burst open. 3 armed security personnel rushed in. Sir, we need to evacuate, the lead guard insisted. The facility's been compromised. By whom? Charles demanded. Unknown, sir. But they've accessed the central servers and triggered the emergency protocols. Jack realized what was happening. Claire had found a way to create a diversion. In the moment of confusion, Jack lunged across the table, grabbing the tablet with the video of his mother. He smashed it against Charles's head, sending the older man sprawling. Stop him, Victoria shouted. Jack dove through the kitchen doorway as bullets splintered the woodwork around him. He crashed through the back door into the yard, running full tilt toward the fence. Jack! Claire's voice was urgent in his ear. The tracking device. Activate it now. He fumbled for the device as he vaulted the fence, bullets whizzing overhead. The neighboring yard was dark, providing momentary cover. Claire, what did you find? He gasped, sprinting between houses. Your mother built a kill switch into Project Prometheus, Claire replied. A complete system override that would render the neural interfaces harmless. That's what they've been trying to remove for years. Where is she? Jack demanded, dodging between parked cars as sirens wailed in the distance. That's just it, Jack. She's not in any care facility. According to these files, she's been working at BoardSphere's offshore research platform. The Prometheus failsafe is coded to her DNA and brainwave patterns. They need her alive and cooperative. Jack reached the main road, frantically looking for escape options. A motorcycle roared up beside him, Alicia at the controls. Get on, she shouted, tossing him a helmet. As they sped away, Jack processed the earth-shattering revelations. His mother wasn't a victim. She was the final guardian preventing BoardSphere from weaponizing mind control technology. His parents had been heroes, not pawns. Where's Claire? He asked Alicia as they weaved through traffic. We got separated during the alarm. She said to meet at extraction point B. Alicia sounded worried. Jack, there's something else you need to know. The files we found, they showed another name connected to Project Prometheus. Someone who's been working with Charles from the beginning. Who? The motorcycle suddenly swerved violently as a black SUV slammed into them from the side. Jack felt himself flying through the air, then crashing onto the hard pavement. Pain exploded across his body. Through blurring vision, he saw Alicia motionless on the ground several yards away. The SUV's door opened, and a figure stepped out. I'm sorry it came to this, Jack, a familiar voice said. Claire Windsor stood over him, a sad smile on her face. You were never supposed to learn the truth, she said softly, raising a syringe. At least not all of it. As darkness claimed him, Jack's last thought was of betrayal so complete it left him hollow. Jack awoke to the rhythmic sound of machinery and the smell of salt air. His head pounded mercilessly, his wrists secured to the arms of a medical chair. Through large windows, he saw nothing but ocean stretching to the horizon, BoardSphere's offshore research platform. You're finally awake. Claire sat nearby, studying him with clinical detachment. The sedative was stronger than I calculated. Your metabolism is impressive. Why? The single word carried all his pain and betrayal. Because some visions require sacrifice, she replied, standing. Even personal ones. The door opened, admitting Charles Windsor. Father and daughter stood side by side, their resemblance now striking to Jack's eyes. Family reunion? Jack asked bitterly. Charles smiled thinly. Claire and I have had our differences, but we've always shared the same fundamental vision. Humanity needs guidance to survive. You faked your estrangement, Jack realized. All of it, the mysterious investor, the vendetta, it was theater. Not entirely. Claire's expression remained unreadable. My mother's death wasn't staged. Neither was my anger about it. She approached Jack, checking the monitors attached to him. But I came to understand the necessity of my father's work. The greater good it serves. By controlling people's minds? Jack struggled against his restraints. Where's Alicia? Being treated for her injuries, Charles replied. Unlike you, she genuinely believed she was fighting for the right cause. A useful pawn, but ultimately dispensable. Claire shot her father a sharp look. We agreed no harm would come to her. And none will, Charles assured her, provided she cooperates as readily as Jack's mother. Jack's heart lurched. My mother, where is she? Completing her life's work, Charles answered. After years of resistance, Catherine finally understood what's at stake. Seeing you again after all this time, it was the leverage we needed. I want to see her, Jack demanded. Claire and Charles exchanged glances. I think that can be arranged, Charles said. Perhaps it will help you understand our purpose. He turned to Claire. Prepare him for transport to the main laboratory. And Claire, no more emotional entanglements. This project is too important. After Charles left, Claire approached with another syringe. Don't do this, Jack pleaded. Whatever you think you're creating, it's wrong. People deserve free will, even if they make mistakes. Something flickered in Claire's eyes. Free will is a luxury when extinction looms. Climate collapse, resource wars, nuclear proliferation. Humanity is on a suicide path. So your solution is to make everyone puppets? Jack challenged. Your mother died opposing this. How can you betray her legacy? Claire's hand trembled slightly. My mother was brilliant but naive. She couldn't see that sometimes terrible means are justified by the outcome. She lowered the syringe, leaning closer. I did what was necessary to bring Project Prometheus to completion. Including using me, Jack said bitterly. Was any of it real? The connection between us? Pain flashed across Claire's face before her mask returned. Sentiment is a weakness we can't afford. She administered the injection swiftly. As consciousness began to fade again, Jack thought he heard her whisper, I'm sorry it had to be you. When Jack next awoke, he was being wheeled through sterile corridors. Through drug-hazed vision, he registered Claire walking alongside his gurney, her face composed. Where are you taking me? He managed. To see your mother, Claire replied evenly, and to witness Project Prometheus's completion. They passed through multiple security checkpoints before entering a vast laboratory space. In the center stood a complex apparatus surrounded by technicians. Screens displayed neural mapping data, brainwave patterns, and what appeared to be simulation models of global behavior patterns. And there, monitoring it all, was Catherine Deckard, his mother. She looked older than in his memories, her once dark hair now silver, her face lined with years of strain. But her eyes, his eyes, remained sharp and focused. When she turned and saw him, those eyes widened in shock. Jack! The tablet in her hands clattered to the floor. Jack! She rushed toward him, only to be intercepted by security personnel. Mom! Jack fought against his restraints with renewed strength. Charles, you promised he wouldn't be involved. Catherine's voice shook with fury. That was our agreement. Charles stepped forward from the shadows. Circumstances changed when your son attempted a hostile takeover of my company. Besides, your work has stalled. Perhaps Jack's presence will provide motivation. Catherine's eyes blazed. I've given you everything you demanded. The interface modifications, the neural pathway maps. Except the ethical override codes, Charles interrupted. The failsafe you and Thomas built into the core architecture. The one that prevents full deployment of the directive technology. Jack watched his mother's face harden with resolve. And I never will, she stated flatly. The technology was designed to help people overcome trauma, addiction, destructive thought patterns, not to control populations. That was always the red line, Charles. The one Thomas died protecting. Charles signaled to a technician. Show Dr. Deckard the latest simulation results. A massive screen displayed global crisis projections, resource depletion curves, climate disaster models, population displacement forecasts, conflict probability maps. The data painted an apocalyptic future. Without intervention, humanity has less than 30 years before civilization collapse begins, Charles explained. With limited deployment of Prometheus, we might extend that to 50 years. But with full implementation, you'd create a world of automatons, Catherine interrupted. People functioning like programmed robots. I'd create a world that survives, Charles shouted, his composure finally cracking. A world where rationality overrides the emotional impulses driving us to extinction. Jack looked between them, seeing the fundamental philosophical divide that had cost his father his life. You're wrong, Charles, Catherine said quietly. Emotions aren't our weakness, they're our strength. Empathy, love, even fear, they're evolutionary adaptations that helped us survive as a species. Strip those away, and we're no longer human. Claire stepped forward. The neural modifiers don't erase emotions, Catherine. They only guide them toward more rational outcomes. Catherine's gaze shifted to Claire. Elizabeth would be heartbroken to see you standing with him. Claire flinched visibly. Enough! Charles signaled the security team. Place Jack in the testing chamber. Let's see if a practical demonstration changes Catherine's perspective. No! Catherine lunged forward but was restrained. Charles, he's innocent in this. Your quarrel is with me. My concern is with humanity's survival, Charles replied coldly. And sometimes survival requires sacrifice. Jack was wheeled toward a glass-enclosed chamber where technicians prepared what appeared to be a neural interface helmet. What are you doing to him? Catherine demanded. Testing the next-generation interface, Charles explained. The one based on your latest modifications. Without the ethical constraints, of course. It's not stable. Catherine's voice rose in panic. The emotional suppression components could cause permanent damage without the proper safeguards. Jack locked eyes with his mother across the room, seeing her terror. Then his gaze found Claire, who stood rigid, her expression unreadable. Claire, he said softly, you know this is wrong. Something flickered in her eyes, doubt, pain, or perhaps recognition. As technicians prepared to transfer Jack to the testing apparatus, alarms suddenly blared throughout the facility. Red emergency lights began flashing. What now? Charles demanded. A security officer rushed in. Sir, we have a breach. Multiple points of entry on the lower levels. Impossible, Charles snapped. This platform is impenetrable. The officer's radio crackled. Security Team Alpha down. They've reached level 3. Charles turned to Claire. Take a security detail. Find out what's happening. Claire hesitated, looking between Jack and her father. Now Claire, Charles ordered. As she left with several guards, Charles turned to the laboratory staff. Accelerate the procedure. We need to complete this demonstration before. The laboratory doors burst open. Alicia stumbled in, bleeding from a head wound but very much alive and armed. Step away from him, she shouted, training her weapon on Charles. Behind her came more intruders in tactical gear. Not board sphere security, something else. Federal agents, a woman's voice called out. Hands where we can see them. This facility is now under government control. Chaos erupted. Scientists dropped to the floor. Security personnel hesitated, outgunned and surrounded. Charles remained calm, reaching slowly into his jacket. Charles Windsor, the lead agent announced, you're under arrest for illegal human experimentation, corporate espionage, and the murder of Thomas Deckard. You have no jurisdiction here, Charles replied smoothly. This facility operates in international waters under diplomatic. His words cut off as he suddenly produced a small device from his pocket. Nobody moves. This is a dead man's switch connected to the platform's self-destruct system. One wrong move, and we all go down. The federal agents froze. Catherine used the distraction to rush to Jack's side, working frantically to free him from his restraints. Mom, Jack whispered, still fighting the effects of the sedative. How? Later, she murmured, releasing his wrist straps. We need to get you out of here. Charles backed toward the main control console, the dead man's switch clutched tightly. Anyone attempts to leave this room, and I release this trigger. The charges will sink this platform in minutes. It's over, Charles, Alicia said, still aiming her weapon. We've secured the Prometheus data. We know everything, the illegal experiments, the covered-up deaths, all of it. Charles smiled coldly. You think exposure concerns me? This technology is too important for small-minded bureaucrats to understand. His fingers moved across the control panel. If I can't guide humanity's future, then perhaps humanity doesn't deserve a future at all. Warning lights flashed across the monitors as Charles initiated some kind of sequence. What are you doing? Catherine demanded, horrified. Triggering a cascading failure in the neural network prototypes, Charles replied calmly. 30,000 test subjects worldwide, all connected to our preliminary systems. When this completes, their neural implants will overload simultaneously. You'll kill them all, Catherine gasped. A regrettable demonstration of the stakes we're playing for, Charles agreed. But perhaps the survivors will understand the necessity of my vision. Jack, now free from his restraints but still weak, looked desperately around the lab. The federal agents couldn't approach without Charles triggering the self-destruct. His mother couldn't stop the cascade from her terminal. Alicia was wounded and focused on Charles. And Claire was nowhere to be seen. The laboratory doors slid open again. Claire entered alone, her expression grave. The security teams have surrendered, she informed her father. The platform is completely compromised. Charles nodded, unsurprised. Then we proceed with the contingency. Come, Claire. It's time. To Jack's horror, Claire walked calmly to her father's side. Charles placed his arm around her shoulders, the dead man's switch still clutched in his other hand. I'm disappointed in you, Catherine, Charles said. We could have saved them all. He turned to Claire. Initiate Protocol Omega. Claire's hands moved to the control panel. Jack felt his mother tense beside him. Claire, don't, Jack pleaded. Whatever you believe about saving humanity, this isn't the way. Claire's fingers paused over the controls. For a moment, her eyes met Jack's, and in them, he saw not cold determination but agonizing conflict. Claire, Charles urged. Now. She drew a deep breath. I'm sorry, Father. In one fluid motion, Claire grabbed Charles's wrist, twisting the dead man's switch from his grasp. Charles cried out in shock and betrayal as federal agents swarmed forward. Claire! Charles struggled against the agents restraining him. What have you done? Claire held up the switch, her hand steady. What my mother would have done. What Jack's father died doing. Her voice was calm but carried immense weight. Stopping you. Charles's face contorted with rage. You fool. You've doomed them all. No, Claire countered, turning to Catherine. We're going to save them. Together. Catherine moved swiftly to the control panel, fingers flying across the interface. The cascade can still be stopped, but I need the executive override. Claire joined her, entering a complex sequence. My mother's private code. I found it in her journal, the one you thought you'd destroyed. Together, the women worked frantically to halt the deadly cascade Charles had initiated. Jack watched in awe as his mother, the brilliant scientist he'd never known, raced to save thousands of lives. Alicia appeared at Jack's side, helping him stand. You okay? Been better, he managed. How did you? Later, she whispered. Right now we need to evacuate. This platform isn't stable. As if confirming her words, the structure shuddered beneath them. Warning klaxons blared throughout the facility. Structural integrity compromised, an automated voice announced. Emergency evacuation protocols initiated. Catherine looked up from the controls, her face pale. We've stopped the cascade, but the platform's primary supports are failing. Charles must have triggered a secondary protocol. Federal agents began ushering personnel toward the exits. Everyone out, the lead agent ordered. Helicopters are standing by. As they rushed toward the exit, Jack realized Claire wasn't following. She remained at the controls, working frantically. Claire, he called. We have to go. She shook her head without looking up. Someone needs to maintain the override until all the neural connections are safely terminated. Otherwise, the system defaults to its emergency protocols. All implants activate at once. I'll do it, Catherine offered, moving back toward the console. No. Claire's voice was firm. Get Jack to safety. I need to do this. Another violent shudder ran through the platform. Metal groaned ominously. Claire, please, Jack begged. There has to be another way. Finally, she looked up at him, a sad smile touching her lips. There isn't. Not this time. Her eyes softened. I'm sorry for everything, Jack. For using you. For lying. She glanced at Charles, now being dragged away by federal agents. I thought I was continuing my mother's work by helping him. I was wrong. Then let me stay with you, Jack insisted. Jack, go. Claire ordered as the platform lurched again. I need to know you're safe. Catherine took Jack's arm. She's right. We need to evacuate now. As federal agents pulled Jack toward the exit, his eyes remained locked with Claire's. In that moment, despite everything, he saw the woman he'd glimpsed beneath the layers of deception. Brilliant, determined, and ultimately unwilling to sacrifice humanity for her father's twisted vision. The last thing he saw before the doors closed was Claire Windsor, alone at the controls, fighting to save thousands of strangers at the cost of her own life. The helicopter lifted off as the platform began to break apart, sections collapsing into the churning ocean below. Jack watched in horror as the laboratory section where Claire remained tilted precipitously. "No!" he shouted, lunging toward the helicopter door only to be restrained by Alicia and his mother. "She made her choice," Catherine said gently, tears streaming down her face. A choice her mother would have been proud of. As the platform disappeared beneath the waves, Jack felt something inside him shatter. Claire Windsor, manipulator, liar, savior, was gone. And with her, a piece of his heart he hadn't realized she'd claimed. 3 days after the destruction of the offshore platform, Jack sat in a sterile government facility, staring at the wall. The debriefings had been endless. Federal agents, intelligence officials, corporate investigators, all wanting his account of BoardSphere's illegal activities. Charles Windsor was in custody, facing multiple charges. The company's stock had plummeted. Project Prometheus was officially shut down, its technology placed under highest-level classification. But none of it filled the hollow space inside him. The door opened, and his mother entered. Catherine Deckard, no longer the schoolteacher of his childhood memories, but the brilliant scientist who'd spent 5 years as a virtual prisoner, working to ensure her husband's safeguards remained in place. "How are you holding up?" she asked, taking the seat beside him. "I keep seeing her face," Jack admitted. "When she made her choice." Catherine nodded solemnly. Claire made the ultimate sacrifice to undo her father's work, to honor her mother's legacy. "I don't know how to feel," Jack confessed. "She manipulated me, used me as part of their plan, then saved us all." "People are complicated," Catherine said softly. "Elizabeth, Claire's mother, was my dearest friend. When she realized what Charles planned to do with their research, she tried to destroy it. The fire that killed her, it wasn't entirely an accident, nor entirely Charles's doing." Jack looked up sharply. "What do you mean?" Catherine sighed heavily. "Elizabeth set the fire deliberately, to destroy the central servers. She didn't intend to die, but she was willing to risk everything to prevent Charles from weaponizing their work." She paused. "Your father was supposed to help her that night, but he was delayed. He never forgave himself. And Claire blamed my father," Jack realized. "That's why she targeted me specifically." "Initially, perhaps," Catherine agreed. "But something changed. In those final moments, I saw Elizabeth in her eyes. The determination to do what's right, no matter the cost." The door opened again. Alicia entered, her head bandaged but her eyes clear. "They're ready for us," she said. The data recovery team found something. They followed her to a secure conference room where several officials waited with laptops and servers. "Mr. Deckard, Dr. Deckard," a tech specialist greeted them. "We've managed to recover data from a backup server that was ejected from the platform before destruction. Most of it is corrupted, but we found something you need to see." He played a video file. Claire's face appeared on screen, recorded in the final moments before the platform collapsed. "If you're seeing this, I succeeded in stopping my father and likely didn't survive," she began, her voice steady despite the chaos visible behind her. "First, to the authorities. You'll find complete documentation of Project Prometheus on this drive, including names of all involved parties and test subjects requiring medical attention." The platform shuddered violently in the background. Claire continued unflinchingly. "To Catherine Deckard, thank you for maintaining the ethical safeguards my mother helped design. Your strength protected countless lives." She paused, emotion finally breaking through her composed facade. "To Jack, I owe you the truth. I sought you out believing you were complicit in my mother's death, that you and your father were willing participants in my father's plans." She swallowed hard. "I was wrong. Your father died trying to complete my mother's work. And you showed me what true integrity looks like." Another violent tremor rocked the platform. Warning lights flashed behind her. "I manipulated you, used your pain and desire for justice to further my own agenda. For that, I can never adequately apologize." Her eyes glistened with unshed tears. But somewhere along the way, something changed. I saw in you what I'd lost in myself, the courage to stand for what's right, even at terrible cost. Alarms blared in the background. Claire glanced over her shoulder, then back to the camera. Time's running out. But there's one last thing you should know. The neural technology wasn't entirely corrupted by my father's vision. Its original purpose, helping people overcome trauma, addiction, destructive patterns, that potential remains. In the secure vault at coordinates 37-16-42. Yes, the numbers your father left you. You'll find our parents' original research. The pure version, before military applications were considered. She typed frantically on another keyboard as she spoke. That research belongs to you and Catherine now. Use it as it was intended, to heal, not control. Her eyes met the camera directly. And Jack, I wish we could have met under different circumstances. In another life, perhaps. The video ended abruptly as water began pouring into the laboratory. Silence filled the conference room. Jack stared at the frozen final frame of Claire's face, her expression a mixture of regret and resolve. The coordinates, Catherine said finally. They match a location in the Cascade Mountains. A property Thomas purchased decades ago. We've already dispatched a team, one of the officials informed them. Preliminary reports indicate a small research facility, untouched for years. Jack's mind raced. The numbers in Dad's email, they weren't just a citation. They were actual coordinates. Your father was always clever with his fail-safes, Catherine said, a sad smile touching her lips. He knew someone would eventually make the connection. Alicia leaned forward. What about BoardSphere? With Charles arrested and the board in disarray, the company's imploding. Good, Jack said flatly. Not entirely, Catherine countered. Thousands of innocent employees will lose their livelihoods. And the legitimate technologies the company developed, medical advancements, climate solutions, those shouldn't be lost. Jack considered this. What are you suggesting? Your takeover bid is still legally valid, Alicia pointed out. With Charles's criminal activities exposed, his controlling shares will be frozen. Your position as majority shareholder could be reinstated. Jack shook his head. I wanted revenge, not responsibility for a multinational corporation. Then restructure it, Catherine suggested. Dismantle the corrupt divisions. Preserve what's valuable. Transform BoardSphere into something that helps people, not controls them. The idea settled in Jack's mind, taking root. Transform rather than destroy. Build rather than tear down. That would be a fitting memorial, he said quietly. For Dad. For Claire. One of the officials cleared his throat. There's something else you should see. He tapped his keyboard, bringing up satellite imagery. This was captured 6 hours after the platform collapsed. The image showed a small boat, miles from the platform site. A figure lay on the deck, apparently recovered from the water. Facial recognition is inconclusive due to image quality, the official continued. But the boat was registered to a shell company we've linked to Elizabeth Windsor's former research assistant. Someone who remained loyal to her, not Charles. Jack stared at the blurry image, hope flaring painfully in his chest. You think? We can't confirm survival, the official cautioned. But the boat headed for a private medical facility in Singapore owned by the same shell company. We're attempting to make contact now. Jack felt as though he were standing on the edge of a precipice. After days of grief and confusion, a fragile possibility had appeared, that Claire's sacrifice might not have been final. Jack, Alicia said gently, don't get your hopes too high. The platform collapsed completely. The chances of survival. Claire Windsor is her mother's daughter, Catherine interrupted. Never underestimate what a Windsor woman can survive. Jack stood abruptly. I need to go to Singapore. Out of the question, one of the officials objected. You're a key witness in an ongoing federal investigation. My testimony is complete, Jack countered. And as the potential controlling shareholder of BoardSphere, I have legitimate business interests to protect internationally. The officials exchanged glances, clearly unsure of their authority to detain him. Catherine stood beside her son. I'll accompany him. My knowledge of the neural technology may be needed if... She left the sentence unfinished. Alicia rose as well. Someone needs to keep you both out of trouble. Besides, I have contacts in Singapore from my BoardSphere days. Jack felt something he hadn't experienced in days. Hope. We leave tonight, he decided. And while we're en route, I want everything you have on the shell company, the medical facility, and any other Windsor connections in the region. As the officials reluctantly began making arrangements, Jack stepped away to examine the satellite image more closely. The blurry figure on the boat could be anyone, or no one. Claire might be dead, her body lost to the ocean depths. But for the first time since watching the platform collapse, Jack allowed himself to believe in possibilities rather than certainties. In hope rather than despair. His phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. 37-16-42 isn't just coordinates. Look deeper. R. Jack stared at the message, his heart pounding. It could be a trap, a cruel trick. Or, Mom, he called, his voice steady despite the emotion threatening to overwhelm him. I think I know what we'll find in Dad's vault. And why Claire wanted us to find it. Catherine joined him, studying the text on his phone. Her eyes widened in understanding. The original neural interface, she whispered. The therapeutic version, designed to heal trauma rather than control minds. Claire said our parents' work shouldn't be lost, Jack continued, the pieces falling into place. That it could still help people as originally intended. A new beginning, Catherine agreed, instead of an ending. Alicia approached with their travel documents. Transportation is arranged. We leave for Singapore in 2 hours. As they prepared to depart, Jack felt the weight of grief beginning to lift. Whatever they found in Singapore, whether Claire had somehow survived or not, he now had purpose beyond revenge. The chance to reclaim his father's legacy, to fulfill Claire's final wish, to transform something broken into something healing. And perhaps, if fate was kinder than it had recently been, the chance to begin again with someone who had sacrificed everything to do what was right. I'm coming, he whispered to the blurry image, willing it to be her. Hold on. The Singapore skyline glittered like a circuit board against the night sky as their private jet began its descent. Jack hadn't slept during the 18-hour flight, instead poring over everything they'd learned about Elizabeth Windsor's mysterious research assistant, Dr. Lin Wei, who had disappeared from public records shortly after Elizabeth's death, but apparently maintained connections to her research through elaborate shell companies. We land in 15 minutes, Alicia announced, closing her laptop. My contact at Singapore General confirmed unusual activity at the private medical facility. High-security protocols, specialized equipment rushed in 3 days ago. Catherine studied the building schematics they'd obtained. The Helix Medical Center appears ordinary from the outside, but these sublevels. She traced the hidden floors on the blueprint. Advanced medical equipment, isolated power systems, security that rivals military installations. Perfect for treating someone who officially doesn't exist, Jack concluded. Their car wound through Singapore's immaculate streets toward the towering glass structure of Helix Medical. Jack's phone buzzed with another message. 3rd floor, West Wing, room 317. Hurry. R. It could still be a trap, Alicia warned. Then we spring it, Jack replied, his resolve hardening. One way or another, I need answers. Helix Medical's lobby was a study in understated luxury. All clean lines and soothing neutrals, the wealth whispered rather than shouted. At the reception desk, Catherine stepped forward with practiced confidence. Dr. Catherine Deckard. I have an appointment with Dr. Lin regarding the Windsor Protocol. The receptionist's polite smile didn't waver, but her fingers paused over the keyboard. One moment, please. While Catherine handled the front desk, Jack and Alicia drifted toward the west elevators, following the contingency plan they'd developed on the flight. A trim Asian woman in a lab coat emerged from a side corridor, approaching Catherine with controlled urgency. They conversed briefly before the woman glanced meaningfully toward Jack. Catherine nodded to him, their signal. Dr. Lin will see us now, she announced, joining Jack and Alicia at the elevator. The doctor pressed her badge against the scanner, then entered a code. You understand this violates numerous protocols, Dr. Lin said quietly as the elevator ascended. If Charles's associates discover your presence. Charles is in federal custody, Jack interrupted. His money and influence aren't, Dr. Lin countered. Boardsphere's military contracts run deep. Certain parties would prefer the Prometheus technology remain available. The elevator opened directly into a secure medical ward. Dr. Lin led them swiftly down a corridor of closed doors until they reached room 317. She's still recovering, Dr. Lin cautioned. The neural damage was extensive. The hypothermia actually helped preserve brain function until we could stabilize her. Jack's heart hammered against his ribs. She's alive? Claire's actually alive. Dr. Lin's expression softened. Against all odds, Elizabeth's daughter is as stubborn as her mother. She pressed her hand against a biometric scanner. 5 minutes only. She needs rest. The door slid open to reveal a state-of-the-art medical suite. Monitoring equipment surrounded a bed where a pale figure lay motionless, dark hair stark against white pillows. Claire Windsor. Jack moved to her side, scarcely breathing. Her face was bruised, a healing laceration running along her hairline. Electrodes monitored her brain activity on nearby screens. "Claire," he whispered, taking her hand gently. Her eyes fluttered open, focusing slowly. Recognition dawned in her gaze. "Jack!" Her voice was raspy from disuse. "How?" "You left breadcrumbs," he said softly. "Even at the end, you were 3 steps ahead." A ghost of a smile touched her lips. "Not quite far enough ahead. Didn't plan on the structural collapse happening quite so dramatically." Dr. Lin checked Claire's monitors. "Her physical injuries are healing well. The neural damage is our primary concern. The platform's electromagnetic pulse during collapse disrupted the protective measures she was wearing." "Neural damage?" Catherine asked sharply, moving to examine the readings. "The irony isn't lost on me," Claire murmured. "Damaged by the very technology one helped create." Her fingers tightened around Jack's. "Did it work? The safeguards? The test subjects?" "All protected," Jack assured her. "Your override held long enough to safely disconnect everyone." Relief washed over Claire's face. "And my father?" "Facing multiple federal charges," Alicia replied from near the door, where she kept watch. "The company's in freefall." Claire's gaze found Catherine. "I'm sorry for what he did to you. For what I did to your son." Catherine approached the bed, her expression complicated. "Elizabeth was my dearest friend. She would be proud of your final choice, Claire." A commotion in the hallway interrupted the moment. Dr. Lin moved swiftly to the door. "We have a security breach," she reported tensely. "Multiple individuals forcing entry on the ground floor." Alicia checked her phone. Perimeter alarm triggered. "My security contact says at least 8 armed men entered the building. Professional team." Jack's mind raced. Charles's contingency plan. He must have automated protocols in case of his arrest. "They're coming for me," Claire realized, struggling to sit up. "For the knowledge in my head, how to rebuild Prometheus without the ethical constraints." "We need to move her," Catherine decided. "Is there another exit?" Dr. Lin nodded. "Service elevator to the research sublevel. From there, an underground connection to the University Medical Center across the street." "I can't walk," Claire said frustratedly. "The neural damage affected my motor control." Jack made a swift decision. "Then I'll carry you." He gently disconnected the monitoring equipment while Dr. Lin prepared a portable version. "Jack," Claire caught his arm, "there's something else. Something I didn't tell you in the video." Her eyes were urgent. "The coordinates, 37-16-42. They're also the activation sequence for my mother's final project. The one thing that could neutralize Prometheus permanently." Jack froze. "What do you mean?" "A targeted electromagnetic pulse," Claire explained rapidly. "Designed specifically to disable any Prometheus neural interface without harming the host. My mother created it as a fail-safe of last resort." Her voice strengthened with determination. "The complete specs are in your father's vault. If Charles's people rebuild the technology, that's humanity's final protection." The facility's lights suddenly shifted to emergency mode, bathing the room in red. "They've cut main power," Alicia reported. "Using facility backup now." "We have minutes, not hours," Dr. Lin warned, finishing preparations for Claire's transport. Jack carefully lifted Claire from the bed. Despite her tall frame, she felt fragile in his arms, her body still recovering from its ordeal. "Stay with me," he murmured. Her hand touched his cheek briefly. "I'm not going anywhere. Not this time." They moved swiftly through deserted corridors, Dr. Lin leading them to a service elevator hidden behind what appeared to be a storage closet. "This leads directly to sublevel 3, she explained, pressing her badge against a concealed scanner. "From there, we can reach the university tunnel." The elevator doors had barely closed when the facility's alarm system erupted in full force. "They've discovered she's missing," Alicia said grimly. Catherine checked the small tablet Dr. Lin had given her, monitoring Claire's vital signs. "Her neural patterns are destabilizing. The stress and movement." "I'm fine," Claire insisted, though her pallor suggested otherwise. The elevator descended rapidly, opening onto a dimly lit research level. Dr. Lin led them through labyrinthine corridors filled with advanced equipment. "Elizabeth's original laboratory," she explained as they hurried past. where Prometheus was born before Charles corrupted it. And where it will end, Claire murmured, her head resting against Jack's shoulder. They reached a heavy security door. Dr. Lin entered a complex code, then submitted to retinal and voice verification. Once we're through, we seal it behind us, she instructed. The tunnel is nearly 1 kilometer long. If we can reach the University Medical Center, my colleagues there can help extract you from Singapore. The massive door slid open, revealing Victoria Hayes standing on the other side, flanked by armed men in tactical gear. I'm afraid your escape ends here, she said smoothly. Jack instinctively tightened his hold on Claire. Catherine and Alicia moved protectively closer. Victoria, Claire acknowledged wearily. Still cleaning up my father's messes? Securing his vision, Victoria corrected. The vision you betrayed. Her cold gaze shifted to Jack. Put her down, Mr. Deckard. Nobody needs to get hurt here. That's not happening, Jack replied evenly. Victoria sighed theatrically. Always the hero, even for someone who used and betrayed you. She gestured to her men. Take Ms. Windsor. If the others resist, incapacitate them. As the armed men moved forward, Dr. Lin stepped between them. This facility operates under international medical protocols. Your actions violate. My actions are sanctioned by powers beyond your comprehension, Victoria interrupted. BoardSphere's military contracts ensure certain operational freedoms. It's over, Victoria, Alicia called out. Charles is in custody. The board is dissolved. There's no company left to protect. Victoria's smile was chilling. BoardSphere was always just the public face. The technology is what matters, and who controls it. She focused on Claire. And you, my dear, are the key to rebuilding it. Your father made certain of that. What do you mean? Claire demanded. The neural mapping procedure you underwent last year? The one supposedly to sync you with the Prometheus system. Victoria's smile widened. It was actually creating a complete backup of your brain, every memory, every bit of knowledge about Prometheus, stored safely within you. Horror dawned on Claire's face. That's not possible. Oh, but it is. Your father's most brilliant contingency plan. Even if all physical research was destroyed, the complete blueprint exists in your mind, extractable with the right equipment. Jack felt Claire tremble in his arms. The monstrous implications were clear. They didn't want to kidnap Claire. They wanted to extract data directly from her brain, a process she likely wouldn't survive. Catherine stepped forward. I designed those neural mapping protocols. What you're describing would cause catastrophic brain damage. An unfortunate necessity, Victoria replied dispassionately. The technology is too important to lose. Jack's mind raced. They were outnumbered and outgunned, with Claire unable to walk and no way past Victoria's team. Then he remembered Claire's words about her mother's failsafe, a targeted EMP designed to disable Prometheus technology. And suddenly he understood the true meaning of his father's final message. Victoria, Jack said carefully, before you do something irreversible, you should know that we've already secured Elizabeth Windsor's contingency plan. Victoria's expression flickered with uncertainty. What contingency plan? The one designed specifically to disable any Prometheus technology permanently, Jack continued, watching her closely. A targeted electromagnetic pulse that renders the neural interfaces inert without harming the hosts. Victoria's confident facade cracked slightly. You're bluffing. That research was destroyed in the fire that killed Elizabeth. Was it? Jack challenged. Or did Elizabeth ensure it survived through her most trusted colleague? He nodded toward Catherine. My mother helped design it, Victoria. And right now, the trigger sequence is being transmitted to every Prometheus prototype still active. Victoria's hand moved to her ear, a subtle tell that confirmed Jack's suspicion. You're wearing one, he realized aloud. A Prometheus interface. That's how Charles ensured your loyalty. Victoria's face hardened. Enough games. Take them all. As the armed men moved forward, Catherine suddenly pulled a small device from her pocket. One Dr. Lin had slipped to her earlier. 37-16-42, Catherine stated clearly. Authorization, Deckard Catherine E. The device emitted a high-pitched tone, nearly inaudible. Victoria froze, her hand flying to her temple as pain contorted her features. Her men hesitated, confused by their leader's sudden distress. What have you done? Victoria gasped. Localized version of Elizabeth's failsafe, Dr. Lin explained calmly. Disrupts any Prometheus neural interface within 20 meters. Non-lethal, but extremely uncomfortable for the wearer. Victoria crumpled to her knees, her men rushing to her aid, creating the opening Jack had hoped for. "Move!" he shouted, carrying Claire through the momentary gap as Alicia and Catherine followed. Dr. Lin sealed the heavy door behind them, the sound of pounding fists muffled by its thickness. "That won't hold them long," Alicia warned as they hurried down the tunnel. "Long enough," Dr. Lin assured them. "The university end is already secured by people I trust." Claire's arms tightened around Jack's neck. "You knew," she whispered, "about Victoria's interface." "I suspected," Jack admitted. "The way she remained loyal despite everything, it wasn't natural. And my father's message, it wasn't just coordinates or a citation. It was the activation code for your mother's failsafe." Claire's eyes shone with something beyond physical pain. "All this time, our parents were working together, even after death, to stop Prometheus from being weaponized. And now we'll finish what they started," Jack promised. As they neared the tunnel's end, Claire suddenly stiffened in his arms, her body seizing violently. "Claire!" Jack lowered her carefully to the ground as Catherine rushed to help. "Neural cascade," Catherine diagnosed grimly, checking Claire's responses. "The stress, the movement, it's triggering a systemic reaction." Claire's eyes flew open, panic evident. I can't feel anything. My thoughts, they're fragmenting." Dr. Lin knelt beside them. "The damage from the electromagnetic pulse on the platform, it's progressing faster than we anticipated. Do something," Jack pleaded. "There's only one option," Catherine said, meeting Dr. Lin's eyes with grim understanding. "The original Prometheus interface, the therapeutic version. It could stabilize her neural pathways." "You want to use the very technology that caused this to save her?" Alicia asked incredulously. "Elizabeth's original design was meant to heal neurological damage," Dr. Lin confirmed, "before Charles weaponized it. I have a prototype in my laboratory, the last one Elizabeth built before she died." "The risk," Jack began. "Is mine to take," Claire interrupted, her voice weakening. "Without it, I'll die anyway." Her fingers clutched Jack's. "Trust me one more time." The agonizing minutes that followed tested Jack's sanity. Dr. Lin and Catherine worked feverishly to adapt the interface while Claire's condition deteriorated. The sleek neural band, so different from the invasive versions Charles had developed, represented their only hope. "This will establish new neural pathways," Catherine explained as they prepared to activate it, bypassing the damaged sections of her brain. "But her memories, her personality," Jack couldn't finish the thought. Dr. Lin's expression was somber. "We don't know how much will remain intact. The Claire you knew may change." Claire's eyes found Jack's, clarity briefly returning through her pain. "Whatever happens, remember that in the end I chose right." Her voice weakened. "And Jack, meeting you wasn't part of the plan, but it was the best mistake I ever made." As Catherine positioned the interface, Claire's gaze held Jack's with fierce intensity. "Promise me," she whispered. "Promise you'll finish what our parents started. Use the technology to heal, not control." "I promise," Jack vowed, his voice breaking. "But you'll be there to see it." Claire's smile was fragile. Activation code 37-16-42. The interface illuminated, connecting with her neural pathways. Claire's body arched, then went completely still. For a heart-stopping moment, nothing happened. Then Claire gasped, her eyes flying open, seeing everything and nothing. "Claire!" Jack searched her face desperately. Her eyes gradually focused, finding his. For an eternal moment, she simply stared, no recognition visible. Then, "Jack," she breathed, her fingers tightening around his. "I'm still here." The universe seemed to exhale. Dr. Lin checked the interface readings with astonishment. "It's working. The neural pathways are stabilizing, restructuring around the damaged areas." Relief crashed through Jack like a physical force. He gathered Claire gently into his arms, his forehead touching hers. "Don't you ever sacrifice yourself again," he murmured. "No promises," she whispered back, the ghost of her old determination visible beneath her exhaustion. A commotion from the university end of the tunnel drew their attention. But instead of more threats, Jack saw federal agents approaching, led by the same team that had raided the offshore platform. "Mr. Deckard," the lead agent called. "We've been looking for you." Jack tensed protectively, but Alicia stepped forward with recognition. "Agent Mercer," she greeted. "I see my message got through." "Just in time," the agent confirmed. "We've secured the facility and apprehended Victoria Hayes' team." Her gaze fell on Claire. "Ms. Windsor, reports of your death were, apparently, exaggerated." Claire managed a weak smile. Rumors of my redemption, however, are accurate. Agent Mercer nodded professionally. We have medical transport standing by. And Ms. Windsor, the Justice Department is very interested in your testimony about Project Prometheus. After she recovers, Jack stated firmly. Of course. Agent Mercer's expression softened slightly. There will be time for justice. Right now, safety is our priority. As federal agents secured their path to the waiting medical transport, Jack carried Claire into the Singapore night, the warm air a promise of freedom after days of uncertainty. What happens now? Claire asked softly. Jack looked at his mother, who walked beside them with new purpose in her stride. At Alicia, whose courage had helped save them all. At Dr. Lin, carrying Elizabeth Windsor's legacy forward. Now, Jack answered, we rebuild. Not just boardsphere, everything. The right way this time. Claire's hand found his again, their fingers intertwining with tentative hope. Together? She asked, vulnerability beneath her strength. Jack's answer was simple and absolute. Together. As the medical helicopter lifted off, Jack glimpsed Victoria being led away in handcuffs, her Prometheus interface removed. Charles Windsor's final contingency had failed. The technology that had nearly destroyed them might now help heal Claire, and countless others, if they could reclaim its original purpose. The circle was closing. What began with betrayal would end with redemption. And perhaps something even more precious, a second chance. 1 year later, the restored mountain cabin gleamed in the autumn sunlight, its windows reflecting the fiery colors of the surrounding forest. Jack stood on the deck, coffee in hand, watching dawn break over the Cascade Mountains, the property that had been hidden in his father's final message. Behind him, the cabin door opened. Claire stepped out, her movements fluid, but still bearing the faintest hint of her injuries. The sleek band at her temple, a refined version of her mother's original neural interface, glinted in the morning light. Beautiful, she murmured, joining him at the railing. It is, Jack agreed, though his eyes were on her, not the landscape. Claire smiled, catching his gaze. Smooth, Deckard. I try. He handed her a coffee mug. How are the test results? Her expression brightened. Dr. Lin is ecstatic. The new interface design is showing unprecedented success rates with trauma patients. 87% reporting significant reduction in PTSD symptoms within weeks. My father would be proud, Jack said. Your mother too. Claire nodded, her eyes distant for a moment. The neural damage she'd suffered on the platform had healed remarkably, but some memories remained fragmented, others crystal clear. The interface she now wore, permanently, had saved her life by creating new neural pathways, but the Claire who emerged was subtly different from the woman who had first approached Jack with revenge in mind. In many ways, she was stronger, more whole. Have you seen the morning reports? She asked, returning to the present. New boardsphere stock is up another 12%. Jack laughed softly. Catherine will be pleased. CEO suits her. The transformation of boardsphere under Catherine Deckard's leadership had been nothing short of revolutionary. After Charles Windsor's conviction and the exposure of Project Prometheus, Jack had indeed claimed his majority shareholder position, only to immediately restructure the company from the ground up. The military contracts were terminated, the weapons research dismantled. In their place rose divisions focused on medical technology, environmental restoration, and ethical AI development. Catherine, stepping out of the shadows after decades of forced obscurity, proved a brilliant and compassionate leader. The board meeting is at 2, Claire reminded him. We should leave by noon to make it back to the city. Jack sighed dramatically. Remind me again why I agreed to be chief ethics officer? Because someone needs to keep your mother from getting too caught up in the possibilities and forgetting the human implications, Claire replied, nudging his shoulder affectionately. Besides, you're good at it. He couldn't argue with that. The past year had taught Jack that his talents lay not in revenge or corporate takeovers, but in understanding the delicate balance between technological advancement and human needs. His childhood as the son of 2 brilliant scientists, combined with his years as a mid-level programmer who saw the human side of technology, gave him unique perspective. Claire's phone chimed. She glanced at it and smiled. Alicia's flight landed. She'll meet us at the board meeting. How was London? Jack asked. Productive. The International Oversight Committee is adopting our ethical framework for neural technology. She calls it a diplomatic triumph. Jack smiled at the thought of Alicia Bennett, once BoardSphere's marketing director, now serving as their global policy advocate. Her experience with both sides of the company's history made her the perfect ambassador for its new mission. "And Victoria?" he asked. Claire's expression sobered. "Responding well to treatment. The damage from the Prometheus interface Charles implanted was extensive, but the therapeutic version is helping. She's cooperating with federal prosecutors." The discovery that Victoria Hayes had been controlled through a Prometheus interface, a prototype Charles had used to ensure absolute loyalty, had transformed her from villain to victim in the ongoing legal proceedings. Like many of Charles's inner circle, she had been manipulated through technology rather than choice. "Any word from Dr. Lin about the Singapore facility?" Jack asked. "Elizabeth's original laboratory is fully operational again. They've started clinical trials for neural regeneration in stroke patients." Pride colored Claire's voice. "My mother's work, finally doing what it was meant to do." They stood in comfortable silence, watching the sun climb higher. Below the cabin, the small research facility Thomas Deckard had built, the one referenced in the coordinates 37-16-42, now housed a team of ethical engineers developing the next generation of healing technology. "I have something for you," Jack said suddenly, reaching into his pocket. He produced a small, worn envelope. "My mother found it in my father's personal effects. It was meant for you." Claire accepted the envelope with surprise. Inside was a faded photograph, Elizabeth Windsor and Thomas Deckard standing in a laboratory, both young and smiling. Between them stood a little girl with serious eyes, Claire, perhaps 5 years old. "I don't remember this," she whispered, tracing the image. "There's more," Jack prompted gently. She turned the photo over. On the back, in Thomas Deckard's precise handwriting, asterisk for Claire. "When you're ready to understand, remember that your mother chose healing over power. The true strength of our work was never in control, but in restoration. The choice will come to you too. TD asterisk." Claire's eyes filled with tears. He knew. Somehow, he knew I'd eventually face the same choice my mother did. "And you made the same decision she would have," Jack said softly. "You chose to save rather than control." Claire carefully returned the photo to its envelope. "Sometimes I still dream of the platform, of those final moments when I thought I was going to die." Her voice strengthened. "But then I wake up and remember what we've built instead of what we destroyed." Jack's hand found hers, their fingers intertwining naturally. The connection between them had evolved over the past year. From manipulation to mistrust, from reluctant alliance to genuine respect, and finally to something deeper, more enduring. A healing love, grown in the aftermath of devastation. "The board wants to discuss expanding the trauma recovery program internationally," Claire said, returning to practical matters. "The results with veterans have been extraordinary." Jack nodded thoughtfully. "We'll need to ensure proper training protocols. The technology is only as ethical as the people using it," says the chief ethics officer, Claire teased, bumping his shoulder affectionately. Inside the cabin, Jack's phone rang. He recognized his mother's ringtone. "I should get that," he sighed. "Probably another brilliant idea she can't wait until the board meeting to discuss." Claire laughed. "Go. I'll finish my coffee and enjoy the view." As Jack stepped inside to take the call, Claire remained on the deck, her gaze sweeping across the mountains her father-in-law had chosen as the repository for humanity's second chance. So much had been lost. Her mother, Jack's father, countless others harmed by Charles's twisted vision. Yet from those ashes, something remarkable had emerged. A technology returned to its healing purpose, a company transformed by ethical leadership, and a love born from the courage to choose right over easy. The neural interface at her temple hummed gently, a constant reminder of her near death and rebirth. The doctors said she would need it for life, her brain having become dependent on its assistance to function normally. Once, she might have seen this as a weakness. Now she recognized it as a testament to resilience, to the human capacity to adapt, to rebuild, to find new paths forward. Jack returned, slipping his arm around her waist. "Mom's excited about a new application for the interface in early-stage dementia patients. Says the preliminary results are miraculous." Claire leaned into his embrace. "More lives to save. More healing to do," he agreed. Together they stood watching the morning light transform the landscape, the shadows retreating before the dawn. Much as the shadows in their own lives had gradually given way to light. Jack's company had fired him. He had returned as its new owner. But instead of destruction, he had chosen creation. Instead of revenge, redemption. "Ready to change the world?" Claire asked softly. Jack smiled, his father's legacy and his own future equally clear before him. Already have, he answered. But I'm just getting started. Their lips met as the new day bloomed around them, a promise of possibilities neither could have imagined in their darkest hours. What began as a quest for vengeance had transformed into something far more powerful, a chance to heal not just themselves, but countless others. And in that healing, they had found each other. Sometimes the most beautiful things emerge from the deepest wounds. Sometimes being fired is just the beginning of the most important journey of all. Wow, what a journey! I hope you all enjoyed this story of revenge, redemption, and second chances. If you connected with Jack and Claire's story, please hit that subscribe button and join our storytelling community. Have you ever experienced a situation where something that seemed terrible actually led to something wonderful? Share your stories of unexpected blessings in the comments below. Thanks for staying with me through this corporate thriller with heart. Until next time, remember that sometimes our greatest challenges lead to our most beautiful beginnings.